Hello, welcome to another episode of That Nuclear Dude. Today we are going to be playing some more of the HBM nuclear tech mod. And as you can see, there are some villagers in the background, and they are basically just bumbling about and doing basically nothing as usual. So right now, we're going to be ignoring them. But we will come back to it later if this ever becomes a series. Let me know in the comments if you ever want that to happen. Yeah, so what I want to do in this episode is show you, in general, how to build a pressurized water reactor using HBM's nuclear tech mod. You know, the latest version as of making this video. So what I will be doing is I will be getting a set of blocks that are used to create the pressurized water reactor. So let me do that right now. So here are the blocks needed. You need a PWR fuel rod. You need some PWR fuel rods, some PWR control rods, some coolant channels, heat exchangers, perhaps a heat sink, but that is optional. Neutron sources, do not forget that, those are required, and PWR neutron reflectors are optional. You need an access port, a PWR controller, and a PWR pressure vessel. So of all the parts that are required, you need the fuel rods, control rods, coolant channels, heat exchanger, pressure vessel, access port, and PWR controller. Those you need 100% of the time, those are non-negotiable. For the fuel, you can use anything from medium-enriched uranium to highly enriched rubidium, which it accepts both isotopes 326 and 327 as PWR fuel rods. For those who are wondering, a PWR fuel rod is basically... hang on a moment. Why is this on by default? There. So the recipe for that is a scribidium billet with, well, really two of them, with an insulator between them. That creates the scribidium one. Just replace these with whatever fuel you want, ranging from medium-enriched uranium to highly enriched uranium-233 to medium-enriched actinium, and so on. We will also be going over in this video how to effectively dispose of the radioactive fuel that comes out on the other side. Safely, that is. Spoiler, it does not involve storing it in your pocket. Don't do that. Like, seriously, you will not be happy if you do that. So, yeah, to construct an insulator, you can either use a Bakelite bar, or two, polymer bar as well, or if you want to cheap out, you can use wool and 2-string. Albeit the Bakelite method, as well as the polymer method, even though it requires more resources, produces twice more insulator results than the wool method. But if you really want to be a cheapskate, you can use these. Just string and wool. So yeah, pretty cheap to make. The most expensive part of it is just enriching the fuel, which I will not be going over in this video, because that will take forever. I will perhaps be going over it in the second video of the series, so stay tuned for that. Eventually, I will upload it, but, I mean, I'm kind of busy, so whatever. Anyway, on to the actual thing you clicked on the video for. Enough dabbling. So, what we need to do is we need to get a PWR controller, some fuel rods, control rods, coolant channels, heat exchangers, neutron source, and optionally a neutron reflector. You also need a pressure vessel and an access port. At least one of the access port is required, and a PWR pressure vessel. You need to encase the entire PWR in the pressure vessel, or else it will not assemble. This is essentially constructed very similar to the inertial confinement lasers, which basically mean that if you have played HBM before, this will be very similar in that, well, it's very similar to that. So what you essentially do with the fuel rods is you just use them like fuel rods. And coolant channels, they're essentially used for the basically to cool the reactor. And heat exchangers allow you to basically transfer heat from the core of the core area, which I'll construct a very small one right here, involving a control rod, a neutron source, and a fuel rod. This is a very not at all functional core, but the coolant channel would be here. You would have some heat exchangers around the outside, like for example, if you were to build a heat exchanger thing around the core. Assuming, of course, that I can actually do it without messing it up, which is not easy. And then I insert some more fuel rods and coolant. This is not a very functional design, I might add. This will not end well. Well, maybe. I should probably add some control rod over here to ensure that the first principle of nuclear physics is always followed. Nuclear safety, that is. Subcriticality. You want to make sure that the core, you better be damn sure that the core is subcritical before you switch to the second priority, which is cooling. And then the priority after that is containment. Absolutely make sure that that's the case. Otherwise, it'll be meaningless to switch to cooling and then containment, because you've already lost if you can't keep your core subcritical with the reactor supposed to be shut down. That's basically a recipe for really bad ATWIS. And those suck. Trust me. So, yeah. So, a PWR pressure vessel blocks go around the outside. Oh, my touchpad is not locking up for some reason. If you were to place these and surround the entire core with it, assuming I can click a bit faster, because my touchpad keeps locking up. So excuse me for the slow clicking. I apologize. But this is not easy. Alright, so if you were to do that, corners are also not required. You can just do it like this and save a few blocks. You can then, what you can do is you can add a PWR access port, preferably over the coolant channels, but it can really be anywhere. I just prefer to put them there because it maps out where they are. Or perhaps the control rods, because they're arguably more important than the cooling, because remember, subcriticality, it comes first in line. So never forget that. Cooling the core is irrelevant if you can't keep it subcritical. So be aware of that in your designs. So, let's see, there's the PWR pressure vessel block. Here go the button problems again. Here we go. Alright. Then you can basically, I will add a big ass tank, 9,000, off to the side here, and then just because I'm lazy, I'll get an infinite fluid barrel, and now what is it? I can't think straight at the moment for some reason. Coolant. Both coolant and its pipe. Coolant and hot coolant. Right, now that I have that, I will set this to output only because, I mean, come on. You don't need to input with an infinite fluid barrel. and I will put the coolant in. Without coolant, the PWR will overheat, but sometimes if it's a low power design like this, you can get away without it. But in either case, it's not useful. You can't extract energy from it to get steam or electricity through turbines, or perhaps a steam engine if you're lazy. So, yeah. I'll put the PWR controller off to the side and... Hang on. We have technical difficulties. Please stand by. Hang on. I know. Imagine there's elevator music playing in the background. Maybe I'll add that in post. Like, you know, that meme elevator music that always seems to never work right. Come on! Alright. Never work. Always works when you don't want it to, and works when you... And it always works when you want it to, and doesn't work when you... Doesn't work when you want it to. Or something. Some inverse relationship of that nature. Now that I dug that huge hole in the ground, it should work. There. And to add insult to injury, apparently this part here doesn't register as part of the structure. So yeah, great. How's that for a waste of time? So now we are going to add the coolant. I'm going to check the level. There it is. It's more than enough now. And I will transition this to water. I will also get a steam turbine while I'm at it, just for demonstration. A cooling tower will also be needed for this part. Primarily, I would recommend the cooling tower, like the real one. But if you want to be a cheapskate, you can use the auxiliary cooling tower, like a peasant would, or something. Like, who wants to cheap out on that? That's mean. Everybody loves the cooling tower. The auxiliary one just makes it look like Chernobyl, which sucks. So, you don't want your plant to be associated with that, would you? So yeah, don't. Anyway, I'm looking for water. There we go. And water again for the pipe. This is always an annoying two-step process. I will also remove part of that pipe and apparently punch a hole in the ground too. Yay. And do that. 'Cause I don't like fluid barrels. So what I will be doing now is I will get the fuel. In this case, I will use highly enriched scriptium-326. Specifically, now be warned, if you put this entire thing into the reactor, it probably will not end well, especially on your first attempt, or first attempt in the world of your Minecraft world, if you have no references, like I'm doing here. So don't. As you can see, it works. I'm not exactly sure why there is a Geiger counter sound for a reactor that isn't, like, producing much of anything. And also, this design already failed. Because it's critical when the control rods are fully down. Look, 0. Yet it's producing, like, 89, whatever unit that is. Thermal unit. Fine, I'll assume thermal unit. 89 thermal units a tick. Which is... I mean, it is close to subcriticality, but... Yeah, that isn't as good as I was hoping for. Maybe it's decay heat, but I doubt it because I just put fresh fuel into it, so I doubt it. But whatever, I'm gonna keep the show running, as the show must go on, as they say. And then, let's raise the control to 4%. There we go. We have 12,000 something thermal units. And we're finally producing hot coolant at a really grueling hot temperature of 600 degrees centigrade. I would say Celsius, but I'm not. Because apparently I don't think straight, apparently. Anyway, now we will need this so-called hot coolant. I really hate the name coolant, by the way, because it really is just too vague and generic. I much rather would prefer something like, oh, I don't know, an actual name of a coolant, like water, or, I don't know, liquid sodium, maybe, or heavy water, deuterium oxide. Coolant is too generic, and I hate it. If the devs are watching, please take note of this. It's not fun when that happens. It makes me go into a frenzy. And also that Geiger counter sound is so annoying. I hate it. So yeah. Alright, so if we were to, yeah, we're gonna need to. Now what we need is a heat exchanger. Or rather, heat exchanging heater, because apparently they love making things complicated in terms of naming. Bro, it's just give me a YouTube heat exchanger. Pun intended. Ha ha ha. Yeah, I know, not funny. YouTube isn't a heat exchanger, is it? If anything, the only thing YouTube exchange in terms of heat is the flame wars in the comment section that will probably be under this video. Alright, now we are producing some heat, and, I mean, yay, I guess? Let's get a boiler, because otherwise this heat is pretty much useless. So, boil. Not the regular one. Those explode and make a huge mess. No thanks. Yeah. So, if I were to water, and also you need steam pipes, I keep forgetting that, both low pressure and normal, and you need to have, you usually would have multiple of these, but I don't need to do that because this is such a small unit. Here we go. Leviathan steam turbine. And everybody's most favorite part, the cooling tower. Which, side note, does not have a radiation symbol on it. Because that would be stupid. They don't emit radiation at all. So stop thinking that they have a radiation symbol on it when they shouldn't. That's just so stupid. Like, nobody cares. If they were to have a radiation leak, there would already be minimal, because the solution to pollution is dilution. But the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is apparently ran by people who have a phobia of radiation or any risk whatsoever, unless it's business or, I guess, corruption. Because apparently they love that, but they don't like doing their job. Anyway, enough slander. Let's get this wired up. Wait, what the hell am I doing? Of course, I have to route low pressure steam to it. Side note, the devs need to add condenser vacuum to this, because otherwise this is meaningless. This should be hooked up to a condenser, not directly to the cooling tower. that's not something that I would like. Like, just add the balance a plant update or something. You know, balance a plant. The thing that makes you gripe and complain every time you try to start up. And maybe that's something you should add. Dev team. And I get it. Maybe they're under some kind of pressure, and I get it. But come on. And, like, really? There's no balance of plant? Come on. Let's get some INC technicians in here. I have an idea. Spawn INC technician. Ignore that it says villager. There. There's my INC technician. And you? You're... No, not you. You're another INC technician. Go. Come on. Come on. Bite the sleeping pill. There. Nighty-night. Alright. Alright, there. There's my shift supervisor. He... Come on. There's my chief engineer. There. Whatever. There are my staff. Big air quotes there. Alright. So, yeah, here's the water. Finally, we're in business. I can shove that pipe out. Won't be needing this again. 1.36, that's pretty low, but hey, it's something. I mean, I'm not expecting a gigawatt machine. I'm going to do something ultra silly, which is to use an FENSU, or basically the game's best version of a battery, for the late game, with this early game behemoth turbine, and see how badly I butchered my design in terms of power output. So let's do that. Grab an electrical connector. I don't know what that was. And a cable drop. I also like that this mod has something called stereotypical green ooze. Gotta love that stereotypical green waste. Beep, 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 beep. I hear my dosimeter going off. Beep, 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 beep. Better get my distance away. Running away like a not idiot person. Alright, enough silliness. Time, distance, and shielding. Something that's always a good thing. However, Aurora isn't. But that's a can of worms I won't get into. We're producing a decent amount of power just from this dumb generator that is way oversized for the stuff that I'm doing. Even with this tiny PWR, at 4% power, soon up to 50%. I wonder what will happen. Not much. Let's just go all the way. My INC technicians are certainly shaking their heads at this. Going up to 100% that quickly, aren't we? They're definitely not gonna like that. well.